Hi, welcome. I'm Nasim Schwab. I serve as the Assistant Director of Transfer Student Initiatives at Virginia Tech, and I'm joined by my colleague who's going to introduce himself here in a minute. And we are excited that you have chosen to view our presentation.
Yes, hi, thanks so much. I'm Jarrid Dulaney, Transfer Coordinator and Senior Assistant Director in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at Virginia Tech. So happy that you've joined us for this session. We are going to be talking to you today about what we call Hokie Corner. Virtual Hokie Corner, expanded transfer connections and engagements in the time of COVID is the title of our presentation. And really, it's designed to showcase a new program, a new model for increasing engagement with prospective students, talking about how we implemented and utilize technology and different tools and resources at our disposal, and even saw some very surprising results of continued and increased engagement during the pandemic. So we hope that this will leave you with maybe a model or kind of maybe some ideas for connecting with students, prospective students, and maybe their transfers, maybe not as well, but this will have a very transfer specific focus. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. So just wanted to share a couple quick things about Virginia Tech. For those who are not familiar, we're a large public state land grant institution. Got about 30,000 total undergraduates. About 10% of those are transfer students. So you can see here a nice snapshot of our overall student body. Virginia Tech has more than 150 majors across 8 undergraduate academic colleges. So very, very diverse in terms of the academic offerings, which creates different hurdles for navigating, advising, and thinking about transfer specifically. So also wanted to share just a little bit more about the latest cohort of transfer students. As you can see here, just under 900 students that we brought in for fall of 2021. The majority of our incoming transfer students do come from the Virginia Community College system, and the majority of those students are actually completing associate degrees. The rest of the students come from other 4-year schools, other 2-year schools out of state, and a really diverse group, talking geographically in terms of states represented, as well as other diversity metrics, 30% of our incoming class being first generation students in their family.
So the transfer students transition is often overlooked because of the assumption that they don't need first year transitional experiences since they've already been a college student, or that they already know what to do in terms of completing the application process and getting admitted to an institution. However, our transfer students encounter several barriers when transferring to a new institution. And what is unique about this population is that they're having to overcome these transition barriers more than once with each new institution that they're applying to and eventually attending as well. Some of these barriers include the admissions process, the evaluation of transfer credits, academic preparedness, transfer shock, which is an indication that they're struggling academically if their GPA is lower than their cumulative GPA, financial issues, and then just connecting with the campus community overall. So what Virginia Tech did was back in 2017, they did a survey just to better understand our transfer students' transition and connection when they were onboarding at Virginia Tech. And our results, while they were negative, they have allowed us to develop a lot of programs, including the one that Jarrid and I are talking about today. And what we saw was that in terms of a student applying to the institution, that they just felt that there was a lack of communication regarding the application process and admission requirements, that their acceptance was just unclear and unwelcoming, that they were struggling with transfer credit review of their transcripts from prior institutions, that they felt isolated during that first semester at Virginia Tech, and just that there was a lack of a supportive community, that they did have difficulty in their academic transition and they needed academic support and resources. Unfamiliar with VT's jargon, we call registration course requests, for example, that our transfer orientation wasn't meeting their needs, and this just difficulty finding on-campus and off-campus housing. So just overall a general transition. So we utilize the best practices pulled from our the transfer playbook, essential practices for 2- and 4-year colleges. This playbook calls universities to prioritize the success of transfer students as they transition from prospect to applicant to a new student at their institution. So in particular, the program we're talking about today is focusing on prioritizing transfer students and providing transfer student tailored advising. And so you can see as we talk about these programs that in particular, we're focusing on communicating to transfers key components of the admissions process, application, review, replicating some elements of the first year experience, and then just committing dedicated personnel and structure and resources to our transfer students. So that is how we came about with what we call Hokie Corner. So Hokie Corner provides an opportunity for students to meet with representatives from both Virginia Tech admissions, which is where Jarrid is housed, and then academic advising, which I represent, or people from my office represent. This is, again, pulling from that playbook of providing tailored transfer student advising. And so these appointments are open to all of our students who are, whether they're thinking about being a prospect, are applying, have applied, have been admitted, wherever they are in that transition. They can meet with representatives for 30 minutes and where we are completely student-centered. So we're answering whatever questions that student's coming to that appointment with. These are individualized, tailored appointments. We're providing up-to-date information that's essential and accurate to their transition and to their application, and looking at just overall enhancing their transition to Virginia Tech by being able to provide them information about resources at the institution that's very specific to their needs. So here is just a basic timeline to show you the implementation of Hokie Corner. So we started this back in 2018, 2019. We were at one location, a local community college. We were going in person a couple times a month and meeting in person. In 2019, 2020, we expanded to another local community college in the area and was still doing in person. And then, of course, in spring 20, we had to pivot very quickly to virtual appointments. But we saw that there was a high demand for these virtual appointments. And so in 2020, 2021, we just continued to do virtual appointments. We were able to increase the number of appointments we offered. We were able to utilize some different resources through Jarrid's office that he'll talk about to streamline this process for us. And we were able to also begin our appointments much earlier. So we started them earlier in August and we're able to go all the way through the end of May, as opposed to not having to be tied to when we could be physically at these locations at these community colleges. So in general, we were able to enrich and expand our Hokie Corner appointments in the midst of a pandemic.
So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how we develop the kind of infrastructure around appointments, and actually employed many tools at our disposal to help us work smarter and not harder as we really expanded and saw the growth and definitely kind of improved the overall experience of scheduling student appointments. The first thing that we really used in terms of ways to connect were some very manual processes with different Qualtrics surveys and things. As we got going, we quickly realized that we need to again use different kind of technology at our disposal to really optimize things, and we were able to do that through Slate, which is the customer relationship management service, CRM, that Virginia Tech uses. At the time we were developing Hokie Corner, we were implementing Slate for the first time, so there were some growing pains there. But once we got things figured out, we really saw the benefit of placing appointments in the Slate kind of Slate infrastructure. We first used the events feature in Slate, which is used for kind of large and small events. However, we later found that the scheduler feature in Slate, which is designed for kind of one-on-one appointments or interviews, really was tailored to the needs of Hokie Corner in creating these appointments. So what we did was we used the Slate platform. We're able to build in individual appointments. We're able to make templates for each of our Hokie Corner locations, be it the physical locations for in-person appointments or the virtual Hokie Corner, and have really kind of tailored setups and kind of parameters for different appointments and integrating smart links and those kind of things. So again, just really helped us customize appointments and develop that kind of student focused and customized template to better kind of connect with appointments overall. The next step was thinking about this, especially in the virtual realm, how we transitioned having in-person services, in-person appointments, meeting face-to-face to the virtual realm. Obviously, many of us have gotten very familiar with Zoom as an incredible tool to stay connected when we can't be physically located with one another. And so we utilized Zoom and kind of integrated that via Slate to really create that accessible appointment experience. So we focused on automating kind of individual communications that would really embed different Zoom links and things that we needed to do to streamline the experience of registering for an appointment, receiving follow-up communications, and being able to very easily with this 1 or 2 clicks join into the appointment itself and connect with the advisors from Virginia Tech. So we did that, and it also helps us because integrating things into Slate and being able to use the Zoom features helps us with thinking about data analytics and being able to track how many students are receiving these communications, who's opening them, who's clicking, who's not, and those kind of things as we continue to optimize the experience. So all of this is great, but it doesn't help a bit if you don't have an interface on the student side that allows them to easily access these different services and kind of understand the resources at their disposal. So another central part of this was creating a kind of a host layout for Hokie Corner, optimizing our website, the transfer admissions website, as one of the main places to host the Hokie Corner signups. So we created some big panels that allow students to schedule a transfer appointment. When they click on that, they're able to actually see some segmented panels to find the type of appointment that works best, whether it is the virtual Hokie Corner, which is being very popular, or one of the physical Hokie Corner locations at the partner community colleges. So they can see, again, the different schedules and find the appointment that best meets their needs. We're integrating this with Slate and have the registrations all built there, which allows for individual sign-up pages, a calendar widget that displays available appointment dates, and then individual appointment sessions. So students can really see the kind of availability and plan and register for the appointment that meets their needs. So in thinking about what does an actual Hokie Corner appointment look like, we wanted to say, hey, this is very student focused. We have that down to the registration form that students will complete when they sign up for one of those appointments via Slate. There's a customized registration form that provides basic background information on the student, like their current school, intended major, transfer timeline, special circumstances, degree completion, et cetera. That really helps us establish a baseline as we connect with students and help with their questions. But the appointments themselves are very much student-led, as Nasim has said, with the goal of really helping them with wherever they are in the transfer process, from prospect to applicant to even on the post-admission side. So our goal is to be experts where we can and throughout most areas relating to transfer, admissions, onboarding, and student life, but also to serve as curators and guides for students as they navigate different aspects of the transfer process, even if it's beyond our purview. So being able to, cross-train and also work with external stakeholders, folks around campus, bring them into the fold, connect students with them. That is also a central focus of Hokie Corner. But you can see here again, student-led appointments, focusing on kind of major, what they want to do, thinking about prerequisites, admissions requirements, preparation, timelines, how to apply and navigate the actual nitty-gritty of the application process, thinking about questions of, transfer credit and post-transition, scholarships, financial aid, housing options, general student life, all of that in there. And again, kind of as another counterpart, after a meeting, we would follow up with an email that would contain our contact information so students can connect with us after if they think of more questions or they need us as they continue on in the journey, but also connecting them with those additional points of contact, those stakeholders from around the institution who can serve as further folks to support them as they create a plan and look to navigate a potential transition. There's also a follow-up survey that we send to students, which helps us assess the effectiveness of the overall program, continue to improve that and create a better experience for these students.
So in thinking of the expansion and the changes we've made over the last few years, we wanted to highlight and show how we have been able to expand our reach, primarily by going to our virtual setting. So the top orange box where it says appointments is telling you that in 2018, when we were at that one location, we were able to offer 264 in-person appointments. In 2019 and 2020, we were offering primarily those in-person appointments that first semester. And then with the pivot to online, we were able to expand our offerings. And you can see we had increased the appointments we offered. But just this past year, 2020, 2021, we were completely virtual. And in that realm, we were able to offer significantly more appointments. Went to offering appointments twice a week. As I said, August through the end of May, as opposed to having to rotate and be at a location every other week just for those appointments. Our attendance also increased, no surprise, since we also were expanding the number of appointments we were offering. But you can also see that not only did our attendance increase, but we have what we call unique students. And that highlights that of the 741 appointments in 2020, 2021 that were scheduled with us, 567 of those students were unique. So we were meeting with students, and we have continued this trend of meeting with students more than one time. And so this is a continual relationship we built with these students. So these students may come to us at the time that they are thinking about applying. They may pop in while they're doing the application to check that they're on track. They may come in once they get admitted because they want to ask all those student life onboarding questions and next steps to accepting the offer. So we're able to be a touch point for them at any point in this process. Our demographics changed. So we, of course, went from being at one Virginia community college 100% of our appointments to expanding to bringing in four-year Virginia institutions and out-of-state schools. And you can see in 2020, 2021, our reach went even further. And we went to 50% of our Virginia community colleges from 100%, and then having 20% of students coming from a four-year Virginia institution and almost 20% out of state. So we were pretty close there as well. We also included some of the states you can see that we reached across, as well as some international students. So there's been some students we've met with outside of the United States as well. And then just this past year, past fall, sorry, just this past fall semester, we started offering appointments for the first time in July. So that was a new change because we saw, hey, since we're doing virtual, we can continue to offer these almost year round now. So we offered them July to early December, taking a break for our winter break and for institutions closing for winter break. So we offered 444 appointments virtually and 270 in person. We decided to bring back in person. But you can see that even with adding in person, our demand for virtual is still there, and we're exceeding the demand of the in person. Also, that 714 appointments we just offered this past fall is pretty close to the number we were able to offer all of last year. So we're also now expanding just the amount and types of availability we're doing.
Yeah, and I wanted to showcase some early results in terms of thinking about potential impacts on admissions and enrollment. The goal, of course, of providing these services overall from an institutional perspective is to, kind of increase the interest in thinking about the transfer process for your institution, as well as, being able to recruit very strong candidates, have them prepare in the right way, have them translate to applications, and then be able to admit and enroll strong cohorts. And so while it is early in terms of thinking about this data, and I will definitely say apples to oranges when we're talking about kind of some of these early results, especially given what Nasim shared about the populations that we were reaching, kind of by year, and the way that those demographics have really changed. So it is kind of apples to oranges and looking at the year itself in isolation rather than comparing across years. But as we really have standardized this model, we've seen the great virtual expansion and connecting with students from all over the country and beyond. It will be great to look comparatively from year to year and see kind of the developments and changes there. But some early assessment here, salient points from 2020 to 2021. You saw the proportional representation in the applicant pool of students who participated in a Hokie Corner appointment nearly double. Applicants for the 2020 and 2021 who participated in a Hokie Corner appointment were offered at a higher rate than the overall applicant pool by at least 10 percentage points, showing, again, these students are getting the right information that they need about, transfer admissions requirements, building strong schedules, doing everything we need to get through the admissions process successfully. And you can see here too that applicants for 2020 and 2021 who participated in a Hokie Corner appointment enrolled at a higher rate than the overall offer pool by at least 7 percentage points. So again, focusing not just on pre-transfer and the application process, but even on the post-admission side of things, thinking about onboarding, and transition services, which are so important for transfers, being able to connect with those resources early, get them the information they need, which has definitely helped increase the yield for students who are meeting with us through this program.
And one of the other things we wanted to measure was just our student satisfaction overall, because as you remember back in 2017, our students were very unhappy with their transition and onboarding and even the application process and just understanding how to get to Virginia Tech as a whole. So we have done satisfaction surveys from 2018 all the way through, but comparing 2019 and 2020 with 2020 and 2021, you can see that we score very high in that they agree that Hokie Corner staff answers their questions, that they feel better about their education journey, that they found the communication they received very helpful, and that the staff that met with them is very knowledgeable in the transfer process. And we were able to also increase our response rate, which has been great. We also this past spring redid that survey we talked about that we did in 2017 because we wanted to see if our students that have gotten to Virginia Tech have felt that their transition experience and onboarding has improved in any way. And what was really interesting was to see that the students self-reported that in 2021, less than 12% of our students felt not very well prepared compared to in 2017, where a quarter of those students coming in didn't feel very well prepared. And then our somewhat prepared increased as well. The other neat thing, and as Jarrid mentioned, in these appointments, we talk to our students about ways to get involved when they come to Virginia Tech, all the different programs we offer, onboarding, on-campus housing. And so we have found that 33% of our students that are in a Hokie Corner appointment that come to Virginia Tech, they participate in one of our other programs that's designed specifically to onboard them at the institution, compared to 19% of our transfer students who don't come to us through a Hokie Corner appointment.
So we also wanted to, highlight challenges that we experienced and some that we continue to experience in terms of thinking about the model and that we are always looking to kind of improve the model and the service. Obviously, the pandemic has been a major challenge for us, as I'm sure it has for everyone who's joining us. But what's been incredible to see is actually we had this fear that by transitioning things to virtual, that would not create access and actually would, kind of limit interest for students. But we've seen actually the opposite, and that virtual is here to stay. Even as we've kind of opened in-person opportunities for appointments and things, it just provides such an accessible medium for students to connect with us at their own schedule, no matter where they are. And again, has really, really expanded our reach. But so much so that we continue to see that virtual demand for virtual appointments through Hokie Corner is exceeding availability. And we've, worked on this in a kind of a number of ways, expanded kind of and scaled up our teams and kind of coverage and thinking about options for student appointments. We continue to develop strategies in kind of that area. Virtual has shown a higher no-show rate for us, not surprising, especially if any of you have been having virtual appointments or advising appointments. They do tend to have a higher no-show rate, but there are some strategies I think Nasim will mention here in a second that we've even implemented to combat this and reduce the no-show rates for student appointments. The reminders and kind of customized communication plans through Slate have been very, very helpful for this and getting us to a great place. Technological difficulties, I mean, they happen, right? Sometimes unstable internet connections, whether it's us, whether it's the student, being able to kind of have a strategy, a backup plan to navigate those has been key. Although I'll say they have been very limited, and especially as we've all gotten much more familiar with the technology to connect in the virtual realm. A continued challenge that we see is rebuilding the in-person appointment culture. So again, the pandemic at this time is ongoing, and kind of student services at different campuses look look different than they did before the pandemic. And so we do see that there's still a challenge in kind of connecting with students in an in-person medium, but that's where virtual has really been fantastic for us to maintain and continue to grow those relationships. Other areas that are challenges for us particularly are thinking about kind of spheres in the transfer process, things relating to transfer or enrollment and kind of student life that are beyond our control, and thinking about credit evaluations and things like that, scholarships, financial aid. But that's where it's so key when we're talking about bringing in external stakeholders, connecting students, and providing kind of that guide to those different services and tools that students can use to get answers to their questions. Not having to be the expert, but being able to facilitate as well is very key for us in that model.
And so highlighting some recommendations if you're thinking about creating this similar program at your institution, we of course recommend creating resources to meet your transfer student needs. So Jarrid created those transfer roadmaps because that was a need since we admit by major. So whatever your students need to create that resources, having very targeted and purposeful information. So we make sure that we're just answering the very specific questions the students are asking and not overloading them with a bunch of information. We know hopefully they'll come back to us with other questions. Normalizing their transition, that we meet with lots of transfer students that are in the exact same situation as they are. They're not the only one that is having these questions. Meeting them where they are, which for us has been these virtual appointments, as well as physically going to their community colleges when those opportunities arise. Gradually releasing appointments. So Jarrid mentioned we saw a high no-show rate. And so we are piloting, which has gone very well, releasing appointments every two weeks. So a student can only schedule the furthest 2 weeks out. And before we released our entire semester. So we could have a student schedule with us that wants to talk to us in April, but then doesn't want to wait that long. And so they would email or call us and get their answer and then not cancel that appointment. So we gradually release them. We put them on our website that, every Friday, for example, the next set gets released. Creating a system that can be automated as much as possible. That's why we utilize Slate. So if you can have a system that is going to go ahead and release those appointments, that will do the communications in there for you, that you can set up to send those reminders, to send those confirmations when they scheduled, to send the survey as soon as the appointment ends, and that you can then send that follow-up email through is going to be really helpful. And then creating those communications for students based on where they are. So whether they're a prospect, admitted, deposited, we have drafted emails that meets each of these different groups that we customize based on each student, but we have a general template. So our students are generally getting the same information. Promoting that active participation. So we have our students come in and we immediately tell them, this is student led, whatever you want to ask us. And we just have them drive that conversation so that it's not just us talking and assuming what information they want from us. And then including campus partners as much as you can. We've been really beneficial in that we're able to combine admissions and academic advising. So whatever it is, maybe on your campus, if you see that that's a need, or you get more questions from maybe housing, or bringing in other partners if you're able to. So we really would like to thank you for taking the time of reviewing our presentation and learning a little bit more about our model. Our contact information is on here. So if you want to reach out to either one of us to learn more about our process or ask questions, or we're happy to share whatever information you're looking for just to talk about similar things you might want to do, feel free to reach out to us, as well as the admissions page. So that is where our everything's linked. So students go to there, we drive them there to sign up for appointments and see other information in those roadmaps and just everything that Jarrid's office has put together. We're also going to include our handouts to our PowerPoint and other information for you, and we're happy to provide anything else that might be missing. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.
Take care. Thanks.